Welcome to Boring Stories. If you've found this video, there's a good chance you're ready to fall asleep, or at least drift slowly toward it. So make yourself comfortable. You won't need to remember any of this. You won't need to keep track of characters or kingdoms or battles. This is not a story of glory or ambition or loud moments. It's a story of time that passes quietly, like sand falling grain by grain into an hourglass buried deep in the desert. Tonight begins a journey into a long life, long not in years, but in hours of waiting, in walls of carved silence, in courtyards where the sun forgets to move. You will be there, but you will not be remembered. That's all right. This is the quiet Egypt. The Egypt that doesn't get painted on temple walls. And it begins now. Part 1. The River and the Prophecy. You are 5 years old when the Nile begins to speak to you. Not in words, not yet, but in the rhythms of the current, in the way the breeze stirs the tall reeds along the bank, and how the mud beneath your toes softens without ever truly yielding. You spend your mornings crouched at the water's edge, watching the long shadows of ibis and heron drift across the surface, listening to the low murmur of the river as though it were humming some ancient lullaby only children could still hear. Your mother calls you back from the water more often than not, brushing the silt from your ankles, muttering that the river steals more than it gives. But the old woman who squats near the clay ovens, her face like folded linen left too long in the sun, she watches you with eyes that have seen too many floods. And one day, without being asked, she whispers something into the wind. You don't hear it then, but the priests do. They come on the second day after the third moon of summer. They wear white linen so clean it almost glows, and their sandals do not stir the dust as they walk. They speak in low voices to one another, and not at all to your parents. Your father, who usually stands like a tree even in a storm, shrinks by half when he sees them. Your mother begins preparing food she cannot afford to give away. And you, tall for your age, quiet by nature, stand still as they approach you, their eyes narrow and sun-dried like papyrus scrolls left too close to the brazier. One of them draws a sign in the dust before your feet. Another places an amulet against your chest and mutters a phrase that feels like it sinks straight through your skin. That night, no one in your home sleeps. Your mother burns incense meant for weddings. Your father sits on the roof and does not come down. The old woman with the clay-streaked hands visits only briefly, placing something beneath your sleeping mat, a single blue bead, cracked down the middle. She says nothing. And then comes the cart. It arrives at dawn, pulled by 2 slow oxen and followed by a man with his face wrapped against the sun. You are bathed 3 times with water from the river, warm, silted, smelling faintly of rot and flowers, and dressed in linen that scratches your skin in places you didn't know could itch. Your hands are tied lightly, ceremonially, with a cord of braided flax, and when you step into the cart, your mother does not look at you. She stands as still as the clay statues outside the granary, her eyes fixed on the dust rising in the air. You do not cry. You think of the river, and you listen for its voice, but it is already growing faint. The road to the city is long and unpaved, stretching through dry fields that once held barley, now cracked like old lips. In the distance, you can see the faint shimmer of water, though the driver tells you it is only a mirage. He does not speak much. When he does, it is to the oxen. You sit quietly, as you've always done, your eyes scanning the horizon for the falcon you dreamed of, its eyes sharp, unblinking, perched somewhere above you on a stone ledge that exists only in memory. You don't understand what the dream meant, only that it came the night before the priests arrived. And in the dream, the falcon said your name. Not the one your mother gave you, but another. A longer name. One with power. One that now sits heavy on your chest, though no one has spoken it aloud. As the sun rises higher, the heat thickens like honey left too long in a bowl. flies gather near your ears, and the cartwheels creak in rhythm with your heartbeat. The city appears as a blur at first: white walls, pointed roofs, faint plumes of incense smoke drifting upward in the windless sky. It is unlike anything you've seen. There are guards at the gate who do not smile, servants who do not speak, and stone steps that lead downward, not up. You are not told what awaits you inside. You are only told to be quiet. You already are. That night, in a stone chamber beneath the palace, you sleep on a mat that smells of crushed reeds and strange oils. Somewhere above you, beyond several floors of carved stone, someone plays a harp slowly, as if only half remembering the notes. You think again of the falcon, of its wings folded neatly beside its body, of its eyes that never blink. You wonder if it will follow you here. If it has already perched in some corner of this deep, quiet place, watching as you are prepared for a life you do not yet understand. You fall asleep listening for the river. But here, the only water is still, held in stone bowls that do not speak. When morning comes, it arrives not with sunlight, but with footsteps. Soft, deliberate, endless footsteps echoing through the stone corridors like a procession of shadows moving just beyond reach. You are woken not by a voice, but by the scent of warm water and crushed lotus. A servant, small, silent, and bent slightly at the neck, kneels beside your mat and places a bowl of water at your feet. He does not meet your gaze. He doesn't have to. Everything in this place seems to already know where you are meant to go, and what you are meant to do. You sit up slowly, unsure whether you've slept for an hour or a day. The stone beneath you holds a memory of coolness, but the air itself is heavy, fragrant, humid, and slow. Above, the ceiling is low and carved in neat repeating shapes: lotus, falcon, cobra, reed. You trace them with your eyes until your vision blurs, and for a moment you imagine they are watching you back, blinking slowly through time. The same silent servant hands you a robe dyed faintly with something reddish, perhaps pomegranate, perhaps ochre, perhaps blood, and helps you dress without speaking. You do not resist. You've already learned that this is a place where resistance evaporates like dew in the early sun. You're guided out of the room and into a corridor so long and dim it feels like walking inside a tomb that never bothered to close its doors. The walls are painted with old scenes: men carrying baskets, women pouring oil, gods with heads of jackals or ibis walking among mortals who bow so low their foreheads disappear into the soil. But here, there is no bowing. Not yet. You pass through a chamber of columns, tall as trees and painted deep blue with golden stars overhead. The floor is polished and cold, your footsteps swallowed completely by the hush that clings to everything here. There are no windows. Only openings in the stone where light spills in from somewhere far above, filtered and muted, like sunlight falling through water. Finally, you are brought before a door made not of wood, but of green copper, so aged it looks like moss. 2 guards stand before it. They wear the same expression, unreadable, indifferent, eternal. One raises a staff and strikes the door once, twice. The sound echoes like thunder caught in a jar. The door opens inward, not quickly, but with the weight of centuries behind it. Inside, the chamber is large and hollow, its ceiling rising into shadows so tall you cannot see the end. It smells of incense, honey, and something old and metallic, like the inside of a forgotten urn. At the far end, seated on a throne of black stone flanked by lions carved in profile, sits a woman. She is not old, nor young, not beautiful in the way people speak of beauty, but beautiful like a statue that has been wept over 1,000 times and still endures. Her eyes are outlined in kohl, sharp and unreadable. Her robe is white. Her necklace shines like wet bone. This is the High Mother. She is not the queen. She is older than queens. She does not rule in the way men do. She decides which name will be remembered. She looks at you for a very long time. Then she gestures. No words. Only that. And you are brought forward. The stone beneath your bare feet grows warmer the closer you get to her. You notice the brazier at the center of the room, tall, slow burning, perfumed with resin and ash. You want to stop, to speak, to ask where your parents are, why your hands still smell faintly of river water. But no words come. None are needed. She stands. She walks to you, and as she draws near, you realize how tall she is, how her shadow folds over you like a veil. She carries a thin staff topped with a looped cross, a shape you will later learn is called the ankh, though for now it means only that she knows how long you are meant to live. Her voice, when it comes, is not loud. It is quiet in the way that makes everyone else grow quieter still. You will learn stillness, she says. You will speak when wind does. You will eat when the moon allows. You will sleep beneath the names of kings. You will forget your village. You will forget the river. You do not nod. You do not cry. You simply blink. And the falcon's eyes return to your mind. That evening, you are taken to the garden. It is unlike any garden you've ever seen. No soil, no open sky. Just a square of stone enclosed by high walls, and in its center, a pool of black water that does not ripple. Around it, sycamore trees grow from cut marble planters, and lotus flowers bloom in silence, opening their pale blue mouths toward the ceiling, which glows faintly from hidden braziers behind carved screens. The garden smells of myrrh and water left untouched for too long. You are told to walk the perimeter of the pool until you are tired. Then you may sleep. You walk 12 times. On the 13th, you see your reflection in the still water and notice that your eyes do not belong to a child anymore. They belong to someone waiting to be written down. But not yet. The falcon watches. Somewhere. The morning of your third day in the palace arrives without ceremony. There are no horns, no chants, no voices to rouse you, only the muffled sound of sweeping. A soft bristled broom, made from reeds and patience, passes again and again over the flagstone outside your chamber. The rhythm is steady, ancient. It makes your dreams collapse quietly into waking. You rise, unsure again whether you slept long or barely at all. The concept of time, once anchored to the sun, seems to dissolve in this place, where light comes from corners, and no shadow ever truly moves. Your robe is already laid out, linen, loose, with a thin sash. The color is ivory this time, like something pulled from bone. A silent attendant gestures, not to food, not to water, but to the hallway. You are expected elsewhere. You walk barefoot again. The stones are warm now, just barely, as if they remember the feet that came before you. You pass a group of children sitting in a circle, each with shaved heads save for one long braid at the crown, mark of the chosen scribes in training. They do not look up. Their voices rise and fall in chant, repeating lines you do not understand. Their teacher, a man with sand-colored robes and an expression carved from centuries, does not interrupt them to acknowledge your presence. He simply raises a finger, and the air itself seems to shift. You are led away, deeper, to a corridor filled with stale air and the smell of dried ink and pressed reeds. At the end, a tall archway opens onto a wide room without walls, only columns and thin linen drapes that sway slightly, though there is no wind. This is the classroom, and it belongs to Thoth. Not the god himself, of course, not the ibis-headed master of divine knowledge and keeper of the moon. But this room is his in the way that stone belongs to silence. Every inch breathes learning, and waiting, and age. Scrolls line the walls. Not books. There are no books yet. Only rolls of papyrus stacked in shelves made of mud brick and palm wood. There are dozens of low stools and reed mats, but today, only one is occupied. Yours. It is positioned before a narrow table, where a small dish of crushed charcoal and a blank scroll have already been prepared. A voice comes from behind the curtain, not loud, but clear and old. "You will write," it says. "You will write what you hear. If you write with your hand will obey. If you write with your heart, the gods may answer." From behind the linen curtain, a figure steps forward, the teacher. He is not tall, but seems to stretch upward all the same, as if wisdom alone adds to his height. His hair is tied back with a leather cord, his skin like old parchment, cracked and purposeful. Around his neck hangs a pendant, a tiny tablet etched with symbols far too small to read. "You may call me Sabu," he says. "I will call you nothing until you've earned a name." Then he sits, and the lesson begins. The first thing you learn is silence. Not the absence of sound, but the stillness between thoughts. He teaches you to listen for it, to breathe only when it passes. He draws a symbol in the dust with a reed stylus, a spiral, like a coiled rope or the shell of a sleeping creature. "This is Jehudi," he says. "Thoth, the tone of Are, he who records all." You are not expected to memorize this. You are expected to feel it, to let the curve of the line settle into your bones like a quiet warning. Writing, he tells you, is dangerous. Every mark is a promise. Every promise is weighed. Then come the sounds. Syllables as old as wind, shapes as stiff as the spines of dead reeds. You copy them slowly. The reed pen feels awkward in your hand at first. Your wrist aches. Your lines wobble. You blot the scroll once, then twice, and your fingers are stained with black. Still, Sabu does not correct you. He simply watches. When the ink dries, he holds up your scroll, not to read, but to listen. He shakes it gently by his ear, as though testing whether the words will fall free. Then, at last, he nods once and hands it back. "You've written nothing true," he says. "But your lines are clean. You take this as approval." Days pass, or what feel like days. The sun never touches this room, but candles are lit and replaced so often that you begin to read time by their scent. When they smell of tamarisk, it is morning. When they smell of frankincense, it is midday. When they burn without smell at all, it is evening. You write pages of names. Names of gods, kings, sacred animals, celestial rivers. You learn how the word for cat is written like a pair of ears. How the word for storm has no symbol, only a curved scratch that trembles. You learn that there are 70 words for sun, but only one word for death. And it is never spoken aloud. At night you return to your chamber exhausted, but strangely full. As if something invisible now follows behind your ribs. Not a god, not yet. Perhaps only the memory of a name you have not earned. One evening, as you place your scrolls in a reed basket, Sabu approaches without a sound. His steps are so light, they barely shift the dust. He sets down a stone tablet beside you. It is small, no larger than your palm, and smooth with age. "This belonged to a boy," he says. "He learned well. He remembered everything. But he asked questions. The wrong ones." You look up, startled. Sabu smiles, but only faintly. "Ask carefully," he says. Then he leaves. That night, sleep does not come quickly. You lie on your mat, watching the ceiling, tracing the edges of imaginary hieroglyphs in the dark. You think of the spiral, of the curve, of the wordless storm. Somewhere, the falcon stirs, and the gods begin to take notice. The silence is always there. You notice it first thing when you wake, not because it is louder than sound, but because it wraps itself around you like linen. It is neither empty nor heavy. It simply waits, like everything else in this place. The morning is cool. Your chamber has not changed, though someone has smoothed the folds in your bedding and replaced the basin water. A clean tunic lies beside it, soft and sun-bleached, as though it has never known darkness. You rise, wash your face, and dry your hands on cloth embroidered with the eye of Horus. You are beginning to understand that this is a place where nothing is random. Even the silence serves a purpose. Outside, the halls of the palace breathe with soft footsteps and the occasional thump of a distant pestle. No one speaks. The scribes you pass carry bundles of dried palm fibers, inkstones, small scrolls of blank papyrus pressed flat like offerings. Their eyes are lowered, their posture gentle, deferential. You are not yet one of them, but you are walking among them now. And no one stops you. You follow the corridor east, where the smell of cedar and crushed myrrh grows stronger. This is the way to the scriptorium, the holy place where papyrus is prepared, where ink is ground, where names are copied into forever. The doorway is low, humble. You duck your head as you step inside. The air within the scriptorium feels older than air should. Thick, warm, slightly damp from the many shallow bowls of soaking reeds. Every surface is covered in tools. Not haphazardly, but precisely, ritually, as though each knife and weight and press has its own assigned direction. Light comes in strips through small slits in the wall, illuminating flecks of gold dust drifting down from crushed resin blocks. A scribe named Nebet is waiting for you. She is neither young nor old. Her face is ageless in the way that people become when their work has shaped them more than time. She nods without smiling and leads you to a bench with 2 stools. In the center is a tray of raw materials, stalks of papyrus, small blades, and a block of malachite pigment still veined with stone. Today, you will not write. Today, you will learn how to write. She begins with the stalks. Papyrus, she explains, must be cut at the right hour of the moon. Too soon and it curls. Too late and it cracks. You watch her fingers split the pale green length down its center, revealing soft white flesh within. It is not wet, but it smells of rain. She slices thin strips and lays them in a row, cross-hatched and stacked, before weighing them down with a polished rock. She does not look at you. Instead, she begins to hum. Not a song exactly, but a tone, low, even, almost mechanical. You realize after a moment that it matches the rhythm of her hands. Her fingers press the strips into place like words, like breath. Then the ink. The ink is not black, not at first. It begins as powder, burnt ivory, crushed bone, lamp soot. She adds honey, then water, then wine. You expect her to stir with a stick, but instead she dips her fingertip into the bowl and slowly draws a spiral into the mixture. It thickens, darkens, accepts her. The brush she hands you is nothing more than a sharpened reed, its tip soaked in oil and fire. You try. The papyrus slips beneath your hand. Your line bleeds. Your symbol, the same one you drew so many times with Sabu, looks weak, as if it might collapse into itself. Nebet says nothing. She simply reaches for another stalk. Hours pass. Or more. You forget to keep track of time. The silence becomes the lesson. You learn how papyrus is not merely a surface but a memory. It remembers pressure. It warps with heat. It resists lies. You learn how ink speaks differently on every page. Some days it runs like river water. Some days it thickens like blood. You begin to listen to it, not the sound of the ink, but the sound of your own breath as it touches down. You learn how even silence has grammar. At one point you make a mistake. A blot. A smear across the name of a grain god whose glyph is sacred. Your stomach knots. You wait for rebuke. But Nebet only places her hand gently over yours. Do not fear error, she whispers, at last breaking the silence. Fear forgetting. Then she takes your hand and carefully turns the papyrus over. Begin again. That night, you do not return straight to your chamber. Instead, you linger in the hallways. You pass a basin where scribes wash their hands with natron and rinse their mouths before speaking sacred words. You pass a painted niche where a statue of Thoth watches, his ibis head tilted as though always listening. You stop there. The silence gathers around you again. But it does not press. It cradles. And you realize something unexpected. The silence is not waiting for you to speak. It is listening to what you've already said. It begins with a feast you are not allowed to attend. You hear it before you smell it, though the sense comes soon after. Roasted duck glazed in date syrup. Wild figs split open and stuffed with almonds. Lamb wrapped in lotus leaves, slow cooked on hot stones. The air turns thick with steam and laughter, and you catch snippets of music, reeds and lyres, a soft tambourine that sounds like distant rain. But you are not in the banquet hall. You are in the antechamber, seated on a stone bench beneath a painted relief of Anubis, staring at your knees and listening to the laughter of children you've never met. You are not hungry, not exactly. But your mouth feels empty. They do not bring you into the feast, but they bring you near enough to taste its shadow. At sunset, a steward comes, a man dressed in linen so white it almost glows, with gold cords looped around his forearms. He gestures for you to follow without a word. You rise. He leads you not into the hall, but through a quiet garden, where lotus petals float in wide bowls of still water, and the perfume of frankincense clings to the edges of things. You hear a girl laughing, then silence again. Beyond the garden lies another chamber. Not vast, not grand, just cool and round, like a bowl carved into the earth. And in it you find him, the boy with the golden spoon. He's seated alone at a small table inlaid with lapis and turquoise. He cannot be much older than you, 9, perhaps 10, but he carries his body like something twice his age. His robe is sheer linen, embroidered with tiny hawks. His wrists gleam with rings and bangles. His sandals have soles thicker than yours have ever known. He looks at you the way priests look at sacred vessels, curious, but unwilling to touch without permission. He holds a golden spoon in his right hand, and with it, he is slowly eating honeyed lentils from a shallow silver bowl. No one else speaks. Even the steward has faded into the walls. The boy chews, swallows, waits. Then, without lifting his head, he gestures to the cushion across from him. You sit. The cushion is softer than you expect, stuffed with down, not straw. You've never sat across from someone so still. His eyes are dark and strangely quiet, not hostile, not friendly, just watchful. He dips the spoon again. Another mouthful. Another pause. Then, finally, he speaks. I saw you by the temple pool, he says. You walk like a servant. But they told me you're not. You blink. He continues, as if reciting a list. They say you can read, even though your father sells cattle. They say the gods liked your name before you were born. They say your dreams matter. He leans slightly forward. Do they? You don't know how to answer. You didn't ask for your dreams to matter. But the boy doesn't wait for your reply. He places the golden spoon gently on the rim of the bowl. Then he reaches beneath the table and pulls out a scroll, thin, delicate, sealed with black wax. Read this, he says. It's not a request. Your hands tremble slightly as you break the seal. The scroll is long and full of narrow, winding script. It is not a prayer. It is not a list. It is something else. A question, maybe? a riddle wrapped in metaphor. You recognize words that refer to birth, to stars, to the weighing of hearts, but not as a story. More like instructions from someone long dead, meant to be followed in silence. You read it aloud, slowly, carefully, the words fluttering from your lips like moss from a sleeping basket. When you finish, the boy leans back. He is smiling now. A small smile. But real. He claps once, and a servant appears. A tray is set between you, flatbread, sweet cheese, slices of melon chilled in a bowl of snow. The boy breaks a piece and offers it to you. You read well, he says. Better than the tutors who droned to me about stars and cows. You take the bread, unsure whether this is a reward or a test. He tears a fig in half with his fingers, wipes the juice on a cloth, then asks, "Do you know who I am?" You nod. You have seen his face carved into limestone reliefs. You have seen his name written in ink older than your bones. He is not a prince. He is the prince. And he has just chosen to share food with you. The spoon, though, he never lets it go far. Even when he eats with his fingers, he keeps it nearby. You glance at it again. The handle is etched with a falcon and a lotus, the symbols of Upper and Lower Egypt joined in unity. It's not just a spoon, it's a mark. A birthright. A weight. You will stay close to me now, the prince says, as if deciding aloud. The viziers can't stop it. Thoth already knows. You want to ask what he means, but you don't. Instead, you bow your head and breathe in the sweetness of crushed fig and melon. It is the first time you've eaten today, and already, everything tastes different. The first light of dawn spills slowly across the palace grounds, bathing the vast courtyard in a soft, amber glow that warms the rough stone beneath your feet. You step out into the open air, your sandals barely making a sound as they meet the ground, where thousands upon thousands of tiny grains of sand have crept in overnight, settling into every crack and crevice between the ancient stones like a silent, shifting ocean. The sand, fine as powdered gold, slips and slides beneath your toes, whispering secrets of centuries past with every gentle shift, as if the earth itself remembers every footstep that has ever trod here. Around you, the towering limestone walls rise like the bones of a colossal beast, their surfaces scarred and etched by the harsh desert winds that have swept relentlessly across this land for millennia, carrying with them the grit of time and the echo of forgotten prayers. Each stone holds within it a story, of laborers whose hands cracked and shaped the rock, of kings who strode these halls, and of shadows that stretch long and quiet under the unyielding sun. The heat is already rising, but the morning breeze offers a faint reprieve, brushing against your skin with the dry warmth of the desert, and carrying the distant scent of crushed herbs and wet clay from the pottery yards nearby. As you walk, you are acutely aware of the fragile boundary between permanence and decay. The stones stand steadfast, but the sand relentlessly gathers, shifting and reshaping the very foundation beneath them, reminding you that nothing, not even the mightiest palace, is immune to the slow erosion of time. Around the edges of the courtyard, workers move with quiet determination, their faces streaked with dust and sweat, their linen garments stained and worn from long hours under the scorching sun. They carry heavy blocks of limestone, massive and unyielding, destined to become part of temples or tombs that will speak to eternity, or so they hope. The rhythmic clinking of chisels against stone rings out in a steady cadence, a harsh melody that blends with the soft murmur of water flowing through narrow canals that snake their way from the Nile, offering life and fertility to this desert sanctuary. You watch a group of stonecutters pause for a brief respite, their eyes blinking against the glare as they wipe brows slick with sweat, exchanging tired but knowing nods before returning to their work with relentless focus. Nearby, a young apprentice taps carefully at a stubborn crevice, his hands trembling slightly but his gaze sharp with resolve, aware that the stones he shapes today will endure long after his name has faded into dust. The palace itself breathes beneath your feet, not as a silent monument, but as a living testament to countless generations, each one leaving its mark in sweat, stone, and whispered prayers. The dust and sand that cling to every surface carry the memories of those who walked before you, priests chanting ancient hymns, servants bustling quietly through shadowed corridors, scribes etching sacred texts by flickering candlelight, all layered like the sediment beneath the stones themselves. As you wander deeper into the courtyard, your fingers brush the rough texture of a weathered sandstone pillar, its surface pitted and grainy from centuries of wind and sand, every bump and groove a testament to the relentless power of the desert sun and storms long past. Closing your eyes, you inhale deeply, filling your lungs with the dry, warm air that seems to carry the very breath of this ancient land, mingled faintly with the resinous scent of burning frankincense from a nearby temple altar. The faint rustle of palm fronds overhead stirs softly in the morning breeze, like whispered lullabies sung by invisible voices. You imagine the voices of the past riding that same breeze, the solemn chants of priests performing rituals, the delighted laughter of children playing by the riverbanks, the calls of merchants bargaining over fragrant spices in crowded bazaars, all weaving together into an unseen tapestry of sound and memory that cloaks the palace in timelessness. The sand beneath your feet shifts subtly, reminding you how even this seemingly solid place is caught in the endless flow of change, like the waters of the Nile that rise and fall, carrying away the old and bringing in the new. Every grain is a fragment of history, caught between permanence and impermanence, a symbol of how all things, even the mightiest kings and grandest palaces, are ultimately at the mercy of time's unyielding current. The sun climbs steadily higher, its heat becoming more intense as it pours down like molten gold, causing the air to shimmer and dance with waves of warmth that ripple across the courtyard. Seeking relief, you find shade beneath a colonnade where towering columns rise like ancient sentinels, their fluted surfaces carved with intricate hieroglyphs that tell stories of gods, kings, and cosmic battles, falcons with outstretched wings, eyes of Horus watching protectively, serpents coiled in eternal vigilance, all symbols meant to safeguard the palace and its secrets from unseen forces. The sand has gathered here too, swirling in tiny eddies at the base of each pillar, forming miniature dunes shaped by the gentle but persistent breath of the desert wind. You crouch down and scoop up a handful, letting the fine grains slip slowly through your fingers like liquid gold, watching as they fall back to the ground to join the endless dance of earth and sky. In this quiet moment, you feel the weight of history settle softly around you, not as a heavy burden, but as a gentle reminder of your place in the vast, ever-shifting landscape of time and memory. The stones beneath you grow cooler as the afternoon wanes, the sand clinging to hidden cracks becoming less scorching, and the palace waits silently for the coming night, when shadows will stretch long once again and the desert stars will watch over a land that has seen so much and yet still holds its secrets close. From somewhere far beyond, a distant bell tolls, its low, sonorous clang echoing across the stillness like a call to rest, to reflection, to the slow closing of another day in the life of a forgotten pharaoh, whose story is written not only in ink and papyrus but in the very sand that gathers quietly between the stones beneath your feet. You linger a moment longer, feeling the dry grains sift through your fingers one last time before rising and stepping back toward the palace, the slow rhythm of your footsteps mingling with the soft whisper of sand and stone, carrying you forward into the night and the stories yet to be told. Within the vast, sun-dappled courtyards of the palace, where marble pillars stretch skyward and the scent of blooming jasmine weaves softly through the warm air, the noble children gather in small, quiet clusters, their laughter subdued like whispered secrets carried on the gentle desert breeze. Dressed in fine linens dyed with the softest hues of indigo and ochre, their hands delicate and uncalloused, They move with a graceful ease born not from toil but from endless days sheltered beneath the watchful eyes of tutors and servants. Their games are not the raucous shouts of street children but subtle dances of strategy and imagination, the quiet tapping of carved ivory pieces against polished stone boards, the soft shuffle of sand slipping through fingers as they mold tiny figures to tell ancient stories. Here, away from the glaring sun and the labor of the lower courts, these young nobles inhabit a world wrapped in delicate silks and gentle discipline, where the lessons of kings and gods are woven into every movement and every whispered word. Their play is an echo of the great battles and divine intrigues recorded in the palace's countless scrolls, a rehearsal for the weight of power they will one day bear. The courtyard's mosaic floor glistens beneath their feet, its vibrant patterns depicting scenes from creation myths and heroic epics, each tile meticulously placed to tell a story as old as the river that breathes life into this ancient land. As the children move through their quiet games, their eyes gleam with curiosity and the flicker of dreams not yet burdened by the harsh realities of rule and sacrifice. A boy with dark curls balances a small wooden top, painted in swirling patterns that mimic the starry night sky, and sets it spinning with a gentle flick of his wrist. The top whirls silently, casting fleeting shadows on the painted tiles before slowing to a stop, and he watches it with a smile, as if entranced by the simple magic of movement and stillness combined. Nearby, a girl with eyes like polished onyx arranges a set of ivory figurines into a battlefield frozen in time, her fingers moving deliberately as she imagines the clash of armies and the cunning of generals long gone. Their games are filled with the unspoken lessons of patience, strategy, and grace, preparing them for the complex dance of court intrigue that will soon surround their lives. A slender servant girl drifts silently between the groups, her steps light and measured, carrying a tray of sweet figs and pomegranates glistening with morning dew. She offers the fruit with a shy smile, her eyes flickering briefly with the quiet longing of youth caught between service and dreams. The children accept the offerings with gentle thanks, their delicate fingers brushing against hers in fleeting moments of connection that bridge the worlds of privilege and duty. Around them, the palace hums softly with the murmur of distant conversations, the rustle of silk garments, and the faint melody of a lyre played somewhere beyond the shaded colonnades. The warm sunlight filters through the leaves of date palms, casting dappled shadows that dance lightly over the children's faces, as if the gods themselves are watching these tender moments of innocence before the weight of the crown descends. In this quiet sanctuary, where time seems to slow and the worries of the world fall away like dust, the noble children play their gentle games, weaving dreams as delicate and transient as the desert blossoms that bloom for a fleeting season. Their laughter, soft and rare, floats upward like a fragile breeze, mingling with the scent of rosewater and freshly baked bread carried from the kitchens nearby. The sun climbs higher, gilding the courtyard with a golden light that warms their skin and ignites the tiny beads of sweat on their foreheads, reminders that even in privilege, the desert's heat is an ever-present force. Yet, for these brief hours, they are sheltered from the harshness of life beyond the palace walls, wrapped in the protective embrace of family, tradition, and whispered stories passed down through generations. Each game they play is a quiet preparation, a gentle shaping of minds and hearts destined to navigate the labyrinth of power, loyalty, and sacrifice that governs the land. As the afternoon wanes and shadows lengthen, the children's voices soften further, their movements slowing until only the faintest rustle of linen and the occasional clink of carved pieces disturb the stillness. You watch them with a quiet awe, feeling the fragile beauty of this fleeting peace, knowing that soon, the games will end and the real world will reclaim its relentless hold. The towering wooden doors of the temple open slowly, groaning with the weight of centuries, and as you step inside, a cool breath of air brushes against your skin, a gentle contrast to the fierce desert sun outside. The temple's interior stretches wide and deep, a cavernous hall carved meticulously from golden sandstone, walls adorned with intricate hieroglyphs that climb and curl like living vines, telling tales of gods and mortals woven together in an eternal dance. Above, the ceiling is a painted cosmos, a dark blue canvas dotted with stars and celestial symbols, guarded by fierce falcons and winged deities whose eyes seem to follow every movement, reminding all who enter of the unseen powers watching from above. The scent of smoldering incense, myrrh, frankincense, and rare herbs gathered from faraway lands thickens the air, swirling gently as the flickering flames of oil lamps cast long, trembling shadows that dance on the stone floors like restless spirits. The rhythmic beating of drums pulses softly in the background, like the heartbeat of the temple itself, while muted chanting whispers echo through the colonnades, folding the space in an almost hypnotic stillness that wraps around you like a heavy cloak. In the midst of this solemn grandeur stands the high priest, a figure cloaked in fine white linen embroidered with golden thread, the symbol of the falcon, a sacred mark of Horus, emblazoned across his chest. His presence commands quiet respect, not through force, but through the deep, serene authority born of wisdom and sacred knowledge passed down through countless generations. His eyes, dark and fathomless, meet yours with a piercing clarity, as if peering into the depths of your soul, weighing the worth of your spirit and the purity of your intentions. As he motions for you to come closer, you feel the weight of the moment, the significance of standing here, at the very center of the kingdom's spiritual heart, where the divine and mortal worlds touch in fragile balance. His voice, when he speaks, is low and measured, each word carefully chosen and spoken with the gravity of one who channels the gods themselves. He begins by teaching you of Ma'at, the sacred principle of balance and harmony that governs not just the cosmos, but the very fabric of society. It is the invisible thread binding light and darkness, truth and falsehood, justice and mercy, life and death into an eternal tapestry that must never be broken. He unfurls a delicate scroll of papyrus, its edges brittle with age but its inscriptions still vivid, and runs his fingers along the ancient script. The scroll holds sacred prayers and rituals, mantras that have been whispered through time to honor Ra, the sun god whose journey across the sky breathes life into the land, Osiris, lord of the afterlife and judge of souls, and Isis, the eternal mother and healer who weaves the magic of birth and renewal. His chanting rises and falls like the gentle lapping of waves upon the shore, and with every phrase, you feel a deep stirring within, a connection to something vast and unchanging. The high priest teaches you that the god's favor is not given lightly. It must be earned through ritual, devotion, and the unyielding pursuit of order amid chaos. He demonstrates the precise movements of sacred ceremonies, pouring libations of wine and water into stone basins carved with serpents and lotus flowers, lighting lamps with steady hands, and offering fragrant bouquets of lotus and myrtle to the altar. Each gesture is purposeful, a language of the divine that transcends mere words, speaking directly to the soul of the kingdom. As he continues, he speaks not only of religion but of governance, showing how the sacred order must be reflected in the laws that hold the people together. Justice, he explains, is the physical manifestation of Ma'at, delivered with wisdom and compassion, balancing the scales between the powerful and the meek, ensuring that the king's rule is righteous and that no soul suffers unjustly. His lessons are heavy with meaning. The fate of the land depends on leaders who understand the delicate dance between mercy and strength, between tradition and change. You learn of the role of silence and meditation, how listening to the unspoken messages carried by the wind, the rustling of papyrus reeds by the Nile, and the shifting constellations in the night sky, reveals truths far deeper than any spoken decree. The high priest's voice softens as he tells you that humility is the greatest virtue of all, for even those who hold the highest offices must bow before the eternal gods and the endless cycle of life, death, and rebirth. Outside, the sun dips lower, its warm golden light filtering through the tall windows and stained glass panels, scattering colored shards across the polished stone floor like fragments of a dream. The shadows lengthen, creeping slowly over the sacred texts and carved reliefs that line the walls, silent witnesses to centuries of prayers, sacrifices, and divine judgments. As you rise to leave, the temple feels alive with the whispers of those who came before, priests, pharaohs, and common folk alike, all bound by the shared belief in a cosmic order greater than any one mortal life. You step back into the desert heat, the heavy air replaced by the dry, sharp scent of sand and stone, carrying with you the weight of the high priest's teachings, a solemn reminder that power is not merely taken or given, but earned through devotion, wisdom, and an unwavering respect for the sacred laws that govern all things. The words echo softly in your mind, a quiet flame that will burn steadily through the long, restless nights to come. The first pale light of dawn creeps cautiously over the horizon, spilling molten gold and soft amber hues across the endless expanse of the Nile's winding waters. The river, lifeblood of the ancient land, glistens like a thread of polished glass, reflecting the awakening sky and the slender silhouettes of papyrus reeds swaying gently in the cool morning breeze. The air is still, heavy with the mingled scents of wet earth, blooming lotus flowers, and the faint but unmistakable musk of river creatures stirring beneath the surface. Around you, the village begins its slow, familiar stirring, the rhythmic clinking of fishermen's oars dipping into the water, the muffled chatter of women balancing earthen jars of water upon their heads, and the distant calls of birds greeting the new day with sharp, melodic cries. Yet beneath this calm, everyday scene, an ancient tension weaves itself quietly into the air. Like a whispered warning carried by the wind, a presence watches from the dark depths, silent and unyielding. You step softly toward the water's edge, your bare feet sinking slightly into the damp mud, and your eyes fix on the stillness of the river, searching the shadows that lie beneath the rippling surface. Suddenly, a pair of eyes meet yours, a gleaming, cold, and unblinking gaze that pierces through the water like shards of onyx. There, just beneath the surface, lies the crocodile, massive, scaled, and sinuous, its ancient form blending perfectly with the tangled roots and floating reeds, almost indistinguishable from the dark riverbed. In the world you inhabit, this creature is more than a mere animal. It is the earthly embodiment of Sobek, the formidable god of the Nile, lord of waters and fertility, protector of pharaohs and judge of the living and the dead. The crocodile's presence carries a weight heavier than stone, an unsettling blend of reverence and dread that anchors itself deep within the hearts of the people who know the river's secrets. Stories and legends swirl like desert sands around the crocodile's significance. The elders speak with hushed voices of how Sobek's favor must be sought through careful offerings and respect, lest his wrath befall those who dare to disrespect the sacred river. The crocodile is both guardian and predator, a living paradox who embodies creation and destruction. The villagers offer gifts of fresh fish, fragrant herbs, and small loaves of bread, cast tenderly into the water to placate the god's spirit. You watch a small child, barely more than a toddler, carefully tossing crumbs into the shallows, her wide eyes flickering between curiosity and a deep-seated fear that she barely understands. The river is a living deity here, and to live beside it is to dance on the knife's edge of nature's mercy. This day, however, feels different. The crocodile's gaze holds you in a way that is unsettling, an ancient judgment, slow and deliberate, as if weighing the worthiness of your soul and the intentions behind your every step. Time seems to stretch and fold around you as the sun climbs higher, pouring molten light over the village and the lush banks of the river. The fishermen haul their nets brimming with writhing fish. Women begin weaving reed baskets for the market, and children dart among date palms, their laughter a fragile counterpoint to the crocodile's silent scrutiny. But the memory of those cold, unyielding eyes remains, a heavy imprint on your spirit that refuses to fade. It is as if the river itself breathes through that ancient guardian, reminding you that life here is a fragile balance between respect and recklessness, survival and surrender. The crocodile watched you, and in that silent watching, you glimpsed a deeper truth, one whispered by the Nile for millennia, a truth that no human words could ever fully capture, but that echoes endlessly in the currents of this eternal river. As the afternoon wanes, the heat thickens, turning the air heavy and shimmering like a mirage. The crocodile slips silently beneath the water, disappearing from sight but leaving behind a profound stillness that hangs over the village like a sacred shroud. You find yourself compelled to pause by the river's edge again, heart pounding with a mixture of awe and apprehension. Around you, the world continues, but your place within it feels forever changed. The crocodile's watchful gaze has marked you, an ancient reminder that the gods and spirits of this land are ever present, their eyes forever upon those who walk beneath the blazing sun and beside the life-giving waters of the Nile. And so, as dusk settles softly over the horizon and the first stars prick the deepening blue of the sky, you carry the memory of that day with you, an unspoken pact to honor the sacred balance, to walk humbly between the worlds of man and God, ever mindful of the quiet power that dwells beneath the surface, where the crocodile watches still. The palace stands like a monument carved from the sun itself, its limestone walls gleaming blindingly white in the midday heat, stretching upward in towering terraces adorned with hieroglyphs that whisper stories of gods, kings, and mortal struggles across the endless centuries. As you cross the heavy stone threshold, the world outside, a world of dust, sand, and relentless heat, fades away, replaced by a cool, shadowed sanctuary where every corridor echoes with the soft footsteps of servants, the rustling of fine linens, and the muted murmur of hushed conversations. The air here is thick with scents both exotic and familiar, the sharp sweetness of crushed myrrh, the delicate aroma of lotus petals, and the faint, smoky trace of burning incense that curls upward like a silent prayer to the gods above. It is within this hallowed place, where the weight of legacy and power presses heavily on every stone and soul, that you first encounter her, the princess with cold eyes. Her eyes are a striking contrast to the warmth of the golden light filtering through the lattice windows. They are pale and piercing, an almost unnatural shade of ice blue, as if the very essence of the desert's chill has taken refuge within their depths. When her gaze meets yours, it feels like the momentary crack of a frozen lake, a sudden sharpness that cuts through the heat and dust, revealing a depth of intelligence and guarded emotion few dare to glimpse. Those eyes have seen much for someone so young, the whispered plots woven behind velvet curtains, the weighty sacrifices demanded by the throne, and the unrelenting scrutiny of courtiers whose smiles conceal sharper intentions. In the silent language of glances and posture, she speaks volumes about the loneliness and fierce resolve that define her existence. To be the daughter of Pharaoh is to carry a crown of invisible thorns, to bear the hopes of a kingdom while masking every doubt beneath a mask of icy composure. You follow her movements as she glides through the palace gardens, a rare place of respite amid the marble and stone, where lush palms sway and vibrant flowers bloom defiantly against the arid landscape. Here, the princess allows herself moments of quiet vulnerability, her fingers gently brushing against the soft petals of jasmine and hibiscus, as if drawing strength from their fragile beauty. Yet even in these fleeting moments, the coldness in her eyes never fully softens. It is the same unyielding determination that steeled her heart against the betrayals and burdens of royal life. Every step she takes is measured, every gesture precise, a dance choreographed by years of discipline and necessity. She is a master of her domain, fluent in the unspoken language of power, and yet beneath this facade lies a restless spirit yearning for freedom beyond the gilded cage. At court, the princess is a silent observer and a subtle player in the dangerous game of politics. You watch as she listens intently to the nobles' speeches, her eyes scanning faces for hidden meaning, her mind weaving strategies that might safeguard her family's reign. The courtiers smile and bow, but she returns none of their warmth, offering instead a cool, inscrutable expression that both fascinates and intimidates. When she speaks, her voice is low and clear, carrying the weight of command and the wisdom of someone who has learned to wield words as weapons and shields alike. Her closest advisors tread carefully, knowing that beneath her icy exterior beats the heart of a sharp strategist, one whose loyalty to her people is fierce but who trusts very few beyond the walls of her chambers. Yet even the princess cannot escape the fragile loneliness that clings to her like a shadow. In private moments, away from the watchful eyes of the court, she reveals a tenderness reserved for the rare confidants who have earned her trust. Perhaps it is in the stolen laughter shared with a childhood friend, or in the quiet tears shed beneath a sky filled with stars that her cold eyes betray a longing for connection and normalcy. A fleeting glimpse of a girl who dreams not of power but of simple freedom. But such softness is a dangerous luxury in a palace where secrets breathe like vipers and betrayal lurks behind every corner. So she guards her heart fiercely, wrapped in layers of duty and discipline, a princess forged by the harsh crucible of a kingdom that demands strength above all else. As the day fades into twilight, casting long, purple shadows across the palace's towering walls, you remain in awe of the princess with cold eyes. She is a living testament to the cost of power, a figure both regal and tragic, caught between the radiant splendor of her birthright and the cold isolation it brings. Her gaze lingers in your memory, an enduring symbol of the delicate balance between vulnerability and strength, between the desire to belong and the necessity to rule. In this ancient land of gods and pharaohs, where the sun's blaze can scorch the flesh and the Nile's waters nurture all life, the princess's cold eyes reflect the unyielding spirit of a people who survive by mastering the art of endurance, silence, and the quiet power hidden beneath every glance. The first pale fingers of dawn stretch slowly across the sprawling city, touching the tops of sandstone buildings and sending long, trembling shadows spilling over the cracked earth. In the cool, fragile light of early morning, the great temple awakens not with the clamor of voices but with the quiet reverence of centuries-old devotion. The massive columns, carved from stone mined from distant quarries, rise majestically against the awakening sky, their surfaces etched with stories and prayers that time itself has preserved. Here, in this solemn sanctuary, the thick, fragrant air holds a mosaic of scents, the sharp bitterness of crushed myrrh, the sweet floral notes of lotus petals, and beneath it all, the persistent, grounding aroma of oil, golden, viscous, poured reverently in small pools upon the stone altars and flickering braziers that line the temple's vast halls. This oil, infused with rare perfumes brought from far-off lands beyond the desert's grasp, is no mere substance. It is the sacred lifeblood of ritual, a tangible connection between the mortal and the divine. As you step cautiously across the temple's polished floors, worn smooth by generations of feet and rituals, your senses fill with the rhythm of ancient ceremony. Priests in flowing white linens move with deliberate grace, their voices raised and low, chant like hymns that seem to float like smoke, weaving through the shadows and stone alike. Their hands are steady and sure as they receive the offerings of the faithful, fresh loaves of bread, bundles of aromatic herbs, ripe dates glistening with morning dew, and delicate statuettes fashioned from alabaster and gold. Each gift, carefully presented and placed with profound respect, carries with it prayers of hope, pleas for mercy, and the quiet gratitude of a people who live in constant awareness of forces far greater than themselves. These offerings are more than simple tokens. They are the fragile threads that tie human hearts to the mysteries of the cosmos, a silent bargain made beneath the watchful eyes of gods whose power is both a blessing and a curse. The smell of oil saturates the air, an unending, rich presence that clings to the walls, the robes of the priests, and your own skin as you breathe it in deeply. This oil, often mixed with fragrant resins and essences, is used to anoint statues, sacred relics, and even the bodies of those deemed worthy, symbolizing purification and divine favor. Watching a priest dip his fingers into a shallow basin filled with this amber liquid, then carefully trace symbols upon the face of a carved deity, you feel the profound gravity of this act. A ritual as old as the stones beneath your feet, one that bridges the mortal world and the eternal. Light flickers from oil lamps hanging in ornate holders, casting dancing shadows that seem to move in harmony with the chanting, as if the gods themselves were responding to the devotion of their followers. Beyond the ritual, the temple holds a pulse of life that is both mystical and deeply human. Sacred animals, the ibis with its slender neck and curved beak, the falcon soaring in the painted murals, the bull standing stoic and proud, all embody aspects of the divine and the earthly. Their presence reminds you that in this land, the boundary between man, beast, and God is fluid and sacred. The priests care for these creatures with reverence, recognizing that their health and behavior are seen as signs, messages sent from the gods to guide the living. As you move quietly among them, the soft rustle of feathers and the low murmurs of prayer blend into a serene harmony, wrapping around you like a gentle cloak of ancient wisdom. Outside the temple walls, the city hums to life with the rising sun. Traders unfurl their vibrant fabrics, merchants call out the prices of spices and grains, and children weave between stalls with laughter and shouts. Yet inside this hallowed space, the world slows to a whisper, a sacred bubble of time where the eternal and the ephemeral meet. The offerings stacked high on stone altars speak to the collective hopes and fears of a civilization that lives at the mercy of the Nile's floods and the desert's harsh breath. Here, survival is not just a matter of toil and labor, but of honoring unseen forces through ritual and faith. The smell of oil, thick and unyielding, is a reminder that life flows through these ancient rites, that in giving, the people receive strength, protection, and a fleeting glimpse of the divine. As the sun rises higher, spilling warm light through intricately carved lattice windows, the golden beams illuminate the temple's rich tapestries and polished statues, creating an almost otherworldly glow. The priest's chants rise to a crescendo, filling every corner of the sanctuary with a sonorous echo that seems to resonate deep within your chest, stirring something timeless and profound. You realize that this temple is more than stone and ritual. It is a living heart of a civilization's soul, beating steadily through ages of change, war, and peace. The smell of oil, the texture of stone, the flickering lamps, and the silent prayers blend into a sacred symphony, a reminder that in a world governed by the sun and stars, the invisible bonds forged by faith and tradition are the truest pillars of life. The moment your fingers grasp the delicate reed brush, its slender, fragile tip barely thicker than a human hair, a sudden shiver runs down your spine. The smooth, fibrous papyrus sheet laid before you holds the weight of worlds, of ancient kings and forgotten gods, of laws inscribed in silent hieroglyphs meant to endure through the endless flow of time. The scriptorium, a dim chamber deep within the temple walls, is heavy with the scent of dried ink, a complex blend of soot, resin, and gum arabic, lingering in the air like a stubborn ghost. Here, the slightest misstep is not merely a mistake but an affront to the divine order itself, a ripple that could unravel the fragile threads binding man to God. Every curve, every dot, every stroke must be executed with the precision of a sculptor and the reverence of a priest. For these symbols are not mere letters, they are the breath of eternity, locked in shapes that will speak long after flesh has returned to dust. As you lean over your work, the pressure mounts like an invisible weight crushing your chest. Your heart hammers against your ribs in a desperate rhythm, betraying the calm mask you wear. Around you, the soft scratching of brushes, the low murmur of other scribes, and the occasional clearing of a throat remind you of the unforgiving gaze of the masters. The chief scribe watches silently, his eyes sharp and unforgiving, tracing your every motion. There is no room for hesitation here, no allowance for error. The gods demand perfection, and their earthly servants enforce it with a ruthless hand. You feel the burden of generations of scribes who came before you, each one bearing the same impossible standard, each one tested by the merciless scrutiny of the temple and the unforgiving permanence of ink on papyrus. The brush dips once more into the thick, dark ink, and your hand moves forward with trembling certainty. Then suddenly, a flicker of doubt, a lapse of concentration, a small, crooked line deviates from the elegant flow of the glyph you meant to write. Your breath catches. The word is altered, its meaning shifted subtly but dangerously. The very essence of the message, sacred and precise, wavers now on the edge of chaos. You glance up nervously, catching the flicker of disapproval in the chief scribe's eyes. His expression tightens, lips pressed into a thin line, and his fingers twitch as if ready to snatch the papyrus away or command you to erase the error before it spreads like a stain upon the sacred text. In this moment, time stretches and contracts, every second pulsing with the potential to change your fate forever. The punishment for such mistakes is harsh and swift. Stories whisper through the scriptorium walls, tales of apprentices whose careless errors cost them not only their place but their dignity, who were sentenced to endless menial labor or cast out into the unforgiving streets, marked as failures by the very civilization they sought to serve. The temple tolerates no imperfection, for every glyph is a prayer, every word a sacred covenant with forces beyond mortal understanding. To write a word wrong is to invite disaster, a crack in the foundation of cosmic balance, where chaos might seep through and disrupt the harmony that keeps the world turning. You swallow hard, feeling the weight of centuries pressing down on your trembling hand, knowing that the slender reed you hold is also a fragile lifeline to your own future. Yet, in this crucible of fear and expectation, there is a strange and undeniable beauty. The act of writing is not merely toil but devotion, an art form that elevates the mundane into the realm of the divine. The gentle scratching of brush on papyrus becomes a sacred chant, a ritual performed in silence. Every corrected stroke, every painstakingly redrawn glyph, reaffirms your connection to the ancient lineage of scribes, a chain of knowledge passed down like a fragile flame flickering in the desert night. You feel a solemn pride in your craft, a quiet triumph that transcends the fear and exhaustion, as you carefully reconstruct the word, restoring balance and meaning where once there was error. This fragile restoration feels like a whisper of immortality, a way to outlast the fleeting frailty of your own existence through the eternal permanence of the written word. Outside, the sun climbs higher, sending shafts of golden light through narrow windows carved in stone latticework, casting intricate shadows that dance across the chamber walls. The distant hum of the bustling city fades away, leaving only the steady rhythm of ink and breath, the sacred heartbeat of the temple's hidden sanctum. The priests and scribes move with reverent purpose, guardians of knowledge and faith, weaving their silent prayers into the fabric of history with every brushstroke. You realize that your trembling hand is part of a vast, unseen order, a tiny but vital thread woven into the grand tapestry of civilization, where even the smallest error is met with fear, and every correction is a victory of order over chaos. As you lay down the brush at last, exhaustion floods through your body, but so does a profound sense of accomplishment. The page before you glows faintly in the soft lamplight, a testament to your perseverance, your dedication, and your unyielding will to serve the gods through the sacred art of writing. You know that beyond these walls, empires will rise and fall, kings will be forgotten, and sands will swallow monuments whole. But here, in the quiet sanctuary of the scriptorium, your words endure, eternal and unbroken, a fragile beacon of order in an uncertain world. When the last golden rays of the sun slip beneath the distant dunes, and the sky deepens into a tapestry of dark velvet pierced by countless stars. The temple's bustling halls settle into a hushed stillness that is both sacred and secret. In this fragile twilight, when the world seems to pause and hold its breath, a different kind of life stirs behind the thick stone walls of the scriptorium. The scribes, who by day are tireless servants of the gods and masters of ink and papyrus, now become guardians of whispered knowledge, keepers of secrets too fragile to be spoken aloud during the bright hours. They gather in small, shadowed corners, their voices barely above the softest breeze, sharing tales and truths that flicker like candlelight, hidden from prying eyes and ears, woven into the fabric of the night itself. This after-dark ritual is not written down in any official scroll. It exists only in the memory of those who dare to listen and remember. These scribes, bound by oaths and ancient laws, are more than mere copyists. They are the silent witnesses to history's hidden corners, the custodians of stories that the rulers and priests prefer remain buried beneath layers of official decree. The flickering glow of oil lamps casts long, dancing shadows that cloak their faces in mystery. As they lean close together, sharing forbidden knowledge in whispers so soft they seem almost like the rustling of papyrus leaves. In this fragile communion, the barriers between past and present blur, and the weight of centuries seems to lift, replaced by a fragile thread of camaraderie and courage. You, too, are drawn into this circle, welcomed with wary eyes and cautious nods by those who recognize the hunger in your gaze, the desperate need to understand not only the sacred texts but the hidden stories behind them. The flick of a wrist reveals a carefully concealed scroll, its edges worn and fragile, bearing the faint traces of erased ink and marginal notes, added in trembling hands long ago. The words on this scroll speak not of gods and kings but of forgotten rebellions, whispered warnings, and the quiet defiance of those who lived in the shadows of power. As you trace the faded symbols with your eyes, a chill runs down your spine, and you realize that the stories you hear here tonight will never be allowed to see the light of day beyond these walls. The air is thick with a mix of reverence and danger, for the temple is a place where knowledge is power, and power is jealously guarded. To speak too loudly or reveal too much risks not only exile but something far worse, a slow erasure from history itself, a fate that is whispered about in the darkest corners but never named aloud. Yet despite the risk, the scribes continue to gather, driven by a shared conviction that truth must survive, even if only in whispers. They exchange fragments of poems censored by priests, sketches of scenes omitted from official chronicles, and rumors of secret alliances forged beneath the marble columns of the palace. Each whispered word is a small act of rebellion, a quiet stand against the silence imposed by authority. As the night deepens, you feel the fragile web of connection tighten around you. The voices become softer, the stories more personal, tales of love and loss, betrayal and hope, of lives lived in the margins and shadows, barely glimpsed by history's unyielding gaze. You listen as an elder scribe recounts the fate of a forgotten queen whose name was wiped from the records, her legacy buried beneath centuries of stone. The sorrow in his voice is palpable, a silent mourning for those who built the great civilization yet remained forever unseen. In these whispered hours, you begin to understand that history is not a monolith but a mosaic of countless lives, each piece fragile yet vital, waiting patiently to be heard. When the first pale light of dawn brushes the horizon, the scribes disperse quietly, their secret meeting dissolved back into the routine of the day. The weight of the unspoken hangs heavily in the air, but so does a renewed sense of purpose. You return to your place among the scrolls and tablets, carrying with you the whispered truths that no official document could ever capture. The temple's walls, ancient and impenetrable by daylight, now seem to pulse with hidden life, as if breathing with the stories that live only in the dark. And as you set your brush to the papyrus once more, you do so with a deeper understanding, not just of words and symbols, but of the fragile humanity hidden behind every stroke, every secret whispered after dark. The morning sun creeps slowly over the eastern horizon, spilling its warm, golden light across the sprawling city that hums with life beneath the towering walls of the temple complex. Today is different, heavier with anticipation, because today marks your first time crossing the threshold into the inner temple, a sanctum reserved for the most trusted priests, scribes, and servants of the divine. The air around you seems charged, as if every stone and column holds its own breath, waiting for you to step forward and become part of a secret world cloaked in ancient rituals and sacred mysteries. You straighten your robes, the coarse linen brushing against your skin, and swallow the knot of nerves tightening in your chest. This is no ordinary day. It is a passage, a rite of initiation into the heart of power and faith. The heavy bronze doors creak open before you, revealing a dim corridor where shadows cling to every corner like silent sentinels. The scent of frankincense and myrrh curls through the air, mingling with the faint aroma of burned oil from countless lamps that have burned here through the centuries. The walls, carved with hieroglyphs depicting gods and kings, seem to pulse softly with stories waiting to be told. Your footsteps echo quietly as you move deeper into the sanctum, each step an unspoken promise to uphold the sacred duties entrusted to those granted entry. The silence is not empty but filled with a weighty presence, as if the very walls hold the power of generations of priests who have stood here, offering prayers and guarding secrets too profound to be spoken aloud. Ahead, the chamber opens into a vast hall, its vaulted ceiling disappearing into darkness, supported by towering columns painted with vibrant scenes of divine triumph and eternal life. At the center stands an altar, draped in fine linens and adorned with offerings of bread, wine, and fragrant oils, tokens of devotion to the gods whose favor is sought here. The flickering light of countless candles casts a golden glow, illuminating the faces of the high priests who regard you with inscrutable eyes, measuring your worth, your resolve, your readiness. Their voices are low and measured as they recite prayers and invocations in the ancient tongue, weaving a tapestry of words that binds the mortal to the divine. You feel the power of those words ripple through you, awakening a sense of purpose and awe unlike anything you have ever known. You are led to a small alcove, where your place among the sacred scrolls and relics will be honored and tested. The air here is thick with history and expectation, the weight of countless rituals pressing gently upon your shoulders. The high priest offers you a fragile papyrus scroll, its edges worn and delicate, inscribed with sacred texts that you must study and carry with reverence. Your fingers tremble slightly as you accept it, knowing that this scroll is more than words. It is a living connection to the divine wisdom passed down through generations, a key to unlocking mysteries that shape the fate of kings and commoners alike. Around you, the murmured chants rise and fall like the breath of the temple itself, enveloping you in a cocoon of solemnity and sacred trust. As the ceremony unfolds, you learn that entry into the inner temple is not merely a privilege, but a lifelong commitment, a path that demands unwavering devotion, sacrifice, and the humility to serve forces far greater than yourself. You witness the meticulous care with which the priests perform purification rites, cleanse the sacred vessels, and prepare offerings with the precision that borders on the sacred art. Each gesture is laden with meaning, a delicate dance between the human and the divine, reminding you that in this place, every action resonates through eternity. The realization settles deep within your bones. You are no longer merely a spectator but an active participant in a timeless ritual that connects the past to the present, the earthly to the celestial. When the ceremony concludes and the temple doors swing open to the waking world beyond, you step out transformed. The sunlight no longer feels harsh or overwhelming but warm and inviting, as if the divine light itself now courses through your veins. The whispers of the inner temple linger in your mind, the prayers, the chants, the soft rustle of papyrus, and you carry them with you like a precious talisman. You know that this is only the beginning of your journey, that countless nights will be spent poring over sacred texts, unraveling mysteries, and serving the gods with a heart both humble and brave. And as you walk back through the bustling streets, the grandeur of the temple behind you, you feel the quiet certainty that your life has forever been intertwined with the eternal rhythms of faith, power, and destiny. The night arrives like a velvet cloak, wrapping the vast desert world outside the temple in an endless sea of darkness, broken only by the cold, distant glimmer of stars strewn across the sky like scattered jewels. As you lay down on your simple mat within the cool stone walls of your chamber, the silence seems to hum with 1,000 whispered stories carried on the desert winds. Your eyes close, and slowly, you slip into a dream not of rest, but of endless sand stretching as far as the eye can see, an ocean of dust that swallows everything whole, where time melts into the shimmering heat haze and all familiar landmarks vanish beneath shifting dunes. This dream is not merely sleep's gift, but a strange, haunting vision that lingers long after dawn's first light cracks the horizon. In this dreamscape, the desert is both a prison and a promise, a vast emptiness that threatens to erase your very existence, and yet offers a strange kind of freedom. You wander endlessly, your footsteps swallowed by the soft, scorching grains that seem to flow beneath your feet like a restless tide. The sun above is relentless, an unblinking eye burning with merciless intensity, yet the air carries an eerie coolness, as if the desert itself breathes with a life hidden beneath its barren surface. Distant mirages shimmer like ghosts, shapes of lost cities, half-buried statues, and towers made of glass and fire flickering on the horizon. You reach out to touch them, but they dissolve into the heat, leaving only the sharp sting of sand against your skin and the hollow ache of solitude. The dream twists and turns, shifting without warning. One moment you find yourself standing at the edge of a great oasis, its waters dark and still, reflecting the moon's pale light like a mirror to another world. Palm trees sway gently, their shadows stretching long and slender across the sand, promising shelter and life. But when you step forward, the water ripples and vanishes, leaving behind nothing but cracked earth and whispering winds. The desert is alive with secrets, ancient spirits that watch unseen, whispering warnings in a language older than words, filling the night with a chorus of voices that stir your soul and chill your blood. You feel their gaze, cold and eternal, tracing your path through the shifting dunes, reminding you that in this endless expanse, you are never truly alone. As the dream deepens, the endless sand transforms into a vast battlefield where ghostly figures clash beneath a sky roiling with thunder and fire. Warriors in gleaming armor wield swords that flash like lightning, their faces hidden behind ornate masks carved with sacred symbols. You try to join them, to fight and claim honor, but your feet sink into the sand, held fast by invisible chains. The battle rages on without you, a distant storm of steel and shadow, a forgotten war whose echoes reach into your very bones. Amidst the chaos, you glimpse a lone figure, a ruler draped in gold and linen, standing tall and unyielding against the storm. His eyes meet yours across the sands, filled with a fierce determination and profound sorrow, as if beseeching you to remember the sacrifices buried beneath the desert's endless embrace. Suddenly, the dream collapses, and you awaken with a start, your heart pounding and skin clammy with sweat. The sun is just beginning to rise, casting long, soft rays through the narrow window of your chamber. Outside, the real desert lies silent and still, vast and unchanging, but the dream's shadow lingers in your mind, a haunting reminder of the fragile line between life and oblivion, memory and forgetfulness. You rise slowly, carrying the weight of the dream like a secret burden, aware that the endless sand is more than a vision. It is a reflection of the desert's timeless power to bury and preserve, to erase and reveal, shaping the fate of all who dwell within its unforgiving embrace. That day began like any other within the sacred walls of the temple, soft shafts of morning light filtering through the intricately carved windows, dust motes dancing lazily in the still air, and the distant murmur of prayers echoing through the halls. Yet, beneath this calm surface, the weight of unspoken rules pressed heavily on your shoulders. The temple was a place of silence and reverence, where even the gentlest whisper was meant to be swallowed by the solemnity of sacred duty. But today, something shifted. The moment you opened your mouth and spoke, the world seemed to hold its breath, as if time itself had slowed, watching with sharp, unforgiving eyes. You had been recounting a simple story, one from your childhood, a memory of laughter shared beneath the date palms near the riverbank, when your voice unexpectedly rose, carried by a burst of excitement that refused to be contained. The words spilled out too loudly, echoing off the polished stone walls and shattering the quiet that had blanketed the temple since dawn. Heads turned abruptly, eyes narrowing as if your words were no more than reckless sparks threatening to ignite a fire in a room built for sacred silence. The high priest exchanged glances, grim and measured, while the younger scribes quickly averted their gaze, knowing full well the cost of such a breach. In the heavy stillness that followed, you felt the air grow thick with tension, like a storm gathering strength before the first crack of thunder. The oldest among the priests approached slowly, his robes whispering against the floor, and fixed you with a gaze that weighed you down with centuries of authority. His voice, low and steady, cut through the silence like a finely honed blade. He reminded you, not without a trace of cold reprimand, that the temple was a place of discipline, where each word was chosen with care, each breath measured to honor the gods. To speak too loudly was to invite chaos, to disturb the fragile balance between mortal and divine, and such transgressions could not be overlooked. As the day wore on, you felt the eyes of the temple's inhabitants upon you, a silent chorus of judgment and wary caution. Every glance felt like a subtle reprimand, every whispered conversation a reminder of your momentary lapse. You moved through the corridors with a newfound wariness, your steps quieter, your voice subdued, as if trying to erase the memory of that one too loud moment. But the lesson was etched deep within you. In a place where silence was sacred, your words had power far beyond their meaning, capable of stirring unease and unraveling the delicate threads of order woven through the temple's very fabric. That evening, as the sun dipped low behind the distant dunes and the temple was bathed in the soft glow of oil lamps, you found yourself alone in the small courtyard where the statues of ancient gods loomed like silent sentinels. The air was cool, scented faintly with the sweetness of lotus blossoms and the sharp tang of burning resin. You whispered a prayer, asking for forgiveness and guidance, hoping the gods would grant you the grace to learn humility and restraint. The quiet enveloped you once more, and you understood that the temple's silence was not merely absence of sound but a sacred language itself, a language you must learn to speak fluently if you wish to belong. In the days that followed, your voice grew softer, your words more deliberate. You listened more than you spoke, absorbing the wisdom of the priests and the rhythm of the temple's eternal quiet. The memory of that day, when your voice had rung too loudly, became a cautionary tale etched into the very core of your being. It taught you the delicate art of balance, the power of silence, the strength in restraint, and the profound respect owed to the sacred spaces where gods whispered through stone and shadow. And though you never forgot the sting of that day, you carried its lesson forward, a quiet flame burning steadily in the heart of your service. The mortuary chambers of the ancient temple lie deep within the stone heart of the palace, a place where life's breath seems to pause, and time folds inward like the delicate layers of linen that will soon encase a body. As you step inside, the cool, stale air brushes over your skin, carrying with it the heavy scent of myrrh, frankincense, and the faint metallic hint of resin. Flickering oil lamps line the walls, their flames wavering and casting grotesque, dancing shadows that seem to breathe alongside the silent figures moving in solemn procession. This is a world apart from the vibrant life outside. Here, existence slows to a sacred rhythm, a slow, deliberate choreography devoted to one purpose: guiding the dead through the passage to eternity. The preparation of a body for burial is no mere task. It is a ritual of utmost reverence and precision, a sacred duty entrusted to the hands of skilled priests and embalmers who have spent lifetimes mastering every gesture, every word of prayer. You watch, your breath held softly in your chest, as they begin the careful unwrapping of the linen wrappings from a recently deceased noble, revealing flesh still pale, almost translucent beneath the soft folds. The embalmer's fingers are sure and gentle, moving with a practiced grace as they remove the internal organs, the lungs, stomach, intestines, and liver, each placed meticulously into canopic jars carved with the faces of the 4 sons of Horus, protectors of the soul's vital parts. The jars stand like silent sentinels, their smooth surfaces gleaming faintly in the oil lamp's light, promising safety and renewal beyond the grave. Your eyes follow the ritual as the body is cleansed with fragrant oils extracted from rare flowers and resins gathered from distant lands. The scent is intoxicating yet solemn, a fragrant veil that seems to sanctify the flesh and shield the spirit from decay. The embalmers work methodically, anointing the skin with natron to dry and preserve it, then wrapping the body in countless layers of fine linen strips. Each bandage is carefully folded and tucked, accompanied by whispered incantations and prayers chanted softly by the high priests. The rhythm of their voices rises and falls, an ancient melody weaving through the chamber like a protective spell. With every wrap, the body becomes not just preserved flesh but a sacred vessel, ready to house the soul's journey through the afterlife. While the dead are being prepared with such meticulous care, you are acutely aware of the living world just beyond the thick stone walls. The sounds of the bustling city, vendors calling out their wares, children's laughter, the clatter of carts over cobblestones, reach your ears faintly, a stark contrast to the heavy silence here. Life and death exist side by side, 2 opposing currents flowing through the same space. It is a duality that you are beginning to understand deeply: the vibrant chaos of mortal existence and the solemn order of death's rituals are intertwined, each shaping the other in ways that transcend mere comprehension. Your thoughts drift to the families who have come to bid farewell, their faces etched with grief and hope. You have seen them lay down offerings of food, flowers, and treasured belongings, small tokens meant to comfort the departed on their long voyage. Their quiet prayers and lingering touches speak of love that defies even the finality of death. You feel their presence keenly, as though the very walls of the mortuary chamber absorb their sorrow and devotion, becoming a sacred space where the living honor those who have passed before them. It is a humbling experience, reminding you that this work is not simply about preserving bodies but about maintaining a bridge between worlds. As the day lengthens and shadows deepen, the ritual continues, uninterrupted by the outside world. The embalmer's hands move tirelessly, their motions steady despite the hours that have passed. You stand among them, feeling both small and vital, a silent witness to the most intimate act of reverence and care that any culture can offer its dead. The soft murmurs of prayer, the rustling of linen, and the faint crackle of the oil lamps form a symphony of solemnity that surrounds you, pulling you into a contemplative stillness. You realize that this moment is a gift, a chance to touch the eternal and glimpse the profound respect a civilization holds for the fragile thread of life. When the final bandage is placed and the body is ready to be sealed in its tomb, you help carry it gently along the temple's winding corridors. The weight of the sacred charge feels heavy on your arms, yet your heart is filled with quiet pride. Each step is a reminder of your growing responsibility, the trust placed in you to protect not just the living but the honored dead whose journey you now safeguard. Outside, the sun sinks low, painting the desert sky with brilliant hues of crimson and gold, signaling the end of the day, and the beginning of another cycle in the eternal dance of life and death. Returning to the chamber once more before night fully descends, you pause and look around at the flickering shadows, the silent faces of the statues, and the faint glow of incense smoke curling upwards. In this sacred space, you understand that watching the living is as important as preparing the dead. It is a vigilance that sustains the balance, a duty that ensures the memory of those past endures while the living carry their legacy forward. Here, in the quiet heart of the temple, you stand between worlds, both a guardian and a witness, learning that the greatest honor lies in the delicate care of both death's final moments and the fragile breath of life. The moment arrives quietly, without fanfare, yet it carries a weight that settles deep in your bones, a rite of passage that marks your transformation and your acceptance into a hidden world. You stand before the high priest, whose eyes burn with ancient wisdom and quiet authority, his voice low and steady as he begins the sacred ceremony. Around you, the temple's inner sanctum seems to hold its breath, the usual flicker of oil lamps dimmed to a soft glow that bathes the stone walls in a warm, almost ethereal light. The air is heavy with the scent of lotus blossoms and sandalwood, mingling with the faint whisper of chanting priests who surround you, their voices rising like a gentle tide, carrying blessings from the gods themselves. In this moment, your old identity, the name given at your birth, known only to your family and the outside world, feels like a fragile shell, something left behind as you prepare to step fully into your new existence. The high priest carefully inscribes your new name onto a slender papyrus scroll, each hieroglyph a deliberate stroke filled with meaning and power. This name is not chosen lightly. It is a sacred gift, a symbol of your place in the divine order, a connection to the gods, and a key that unlocks hidden doors within the temple and beyond. As the ink dries, you sense that your entire being is shifting, as if the sound and shape of this new name resonates within you, weaving itself into the very fabric of your soul. The priests chant softly, their voices blending into a steady hum that vibrates through the floor beneath your feet, rising and falling in a rhythmic pulse that seems to echo the heartbeat of the earth itself. You close your eyes and feel the presence of ancient gods, Osiris, Anubis, and Thoth, watching over the ceremony, their blessings wrapping around you like an invisible cloak of protection and strength. The name you have been given is more than just a label. It is a talisman, a shield against chaos, and a guiding light through the labyrinth of life and death. In that quiet moment, you understand that this new identity is not just a title, but a sacred mission entrusted to you, one that will define your path and your purpose in the days and years to come. After the ceremony, as the temple slowly returns to its usual rhythm, you carry the weight of your new name with a mixture of pride and solemnity. It sets you apart from your past, marking you as one chosen to walk the delicate line between mortal and divine. You notice the subtle glances from other priests and temple attendants, respect mingled with curiosity, as if your new name has opened a door to secrets they have not yet fully revealed. The scroll bearing your name is carefully stored within the temple's archives, a silent testament to your transformation, and a reminder that you are now bound by duties and expectations far greater than before. As days turn to weeks, you begin to feel the invisible threads of your new identity weaving into your daily life. Your interactions change subtly. The way you speak, the way others address you, and the responsibilities you shoulder all bear the unmistakable mark of your bestowed name. It becomes a part of you, woven into your thoughts, whispered in prayers, and etched into the stories told in the quiet corners of the temple. The name is a constant companion, a source of strength, and sometimes a heavy burden, reminding you of the delicate balance you must maintain between reverence for tradition and the unpredictable flow of life. In moments of solitude, you reflect on what this new name truly means, not just as a symbol, but as a transformation of self. You realize that it is a bridge linking your past to your future, a covenant that ties your destiny to the eternal cycles of the gods and the timeless rhythms of the Nile. With this name, you are no longer simply a follower or observer. You have become an integral part of the temple's sacred story, a living thread in the tapestry of a civilization that has endured for millennia. It is both an honor and a challenge, a call to live with purpose and grace, knowing that your actions echo far beyond the stone walls and sandy streets of your world. As night falls over the city and the stars begin to scatter across the sky like scattered grains of sand, you find yourself whispering your new name beneath your breath. It feels strange at first, alien and powerful, but gradually it settles into your being like a second skin, a quiet affirmation of who you are now and who you will become. The journey ahead is uncertain, filled with mysteries and trials, but armed with this sacred gift, you feel ready to face whatever the gods and fate have in store. The new name is more than words. It is the key to your place in the eternal story of life, death, and rebirth, a name that will be remembered long after the desert winds have erased the footprints you leave behind. The morning sun rises slowly over the city's horizon, casting a soft amber glow on the limestone walls and palm fronds that sway gently in the warm breeze. Today is unlike any other day, marked by a solemn ceremony that weighs heavily on your heart and mind. The grand procession where every step is measured, every gesture precise, and above all, where a smile is forbidden. As you don the ceremonial robes, heavy with gold thread and embroidered symbols of protection, the fabric clings to your skin, reminding you of the gravity of what lies ahead. The air inside the temple is thick with incense smoke and the quiet murmurs of priests preparing themselves, their faces etched with a calm that borders on reverence. But you sense the tension beneath, a shared understanding that today's ritual is a test of endurance and discipline unlike any before. Outside, the streets are lined with people who have gathered to witness the procession, nobles in their finest linens, children clutching small woven dolls, and merchants pausing their calls as the procession begins. Their eyes are solemn, reflecting the collective weight of the moment. You step into formation alongside the other participants, priests, scribes, and attendants, each carefully chosen to carry sacred objects or recite ancient hymns. The sound of drums and flutes rises in a steady, hypnotic rhythm, and the procession moves forward in slow, deliberate steps, feet brushing the dust-covered stones that have witnessed countless ceremonies before this one. Every eye in the crowd watches, but none smile. The atmosphere is charged with a quiet reverence, a shared respect for the gods and the ancestors who have shaped the destiny of this land. You feel the pulse of the city beneath your feet, and the eyes of the gods upon you as you walk past towering statues of Osiris and Isis, their stone faces carved with serene solemnity. Your lips press tightly together, muscles tense to prevent even the smallest twitch of a smile or a grimace. The temptation to let a brief expression of relief or amusement slip away is immense, especially when a small child's curious gaze meets yours or when the gentle breeze lifts a stray lock of hair across your face. But you know that to smile in this procession would be to break the sacred contract, to dishonor the solemnity of the moment, and risk the displeasure of the gods watching silently from their ancient thrones. Every step you take is a promise, a testament to your dedication and your growing understanding of the delicate balance between human emotion and divine expectation. As the procession winds through the city's narrow alleys and broad plazas, you observe the subtle choreography of movement and silence that holds it together. Priests chant in low, resonant voices, their words weaving invisible threads that connect the living to the dead, the mortal to the divine. You carry a small vessel of consecrated water, its surface shimmering faintly as if alive with sacred power, and feel the weight of responsibility in your hands. A reminder that you are not merely walking through streets but carrying the essence of life, death, and rebirth with each careful step. The rhythmic beat of drums matches the steady cadence of your heartbeat, anchoring you in this timeless moment that stretches like a breath held between worlds. At one point, the procession pauses before the grand temple's entrance, where the high priest steps forward to offer prayers and blessings. The assembled crowd bows their heads in collective silence, and the heavy air vibrates with the intensity of their devotion. You feel the unspoken presence of ancestors and gods mingling in the stillness, their gaze fixed upon you and every other participant, as if weighing the sincerity of your spirit. In this charged silence, the slightest hint of a smile would be a betrayal, a crack in the sacred armor that protects the sanctity of the ceremony. You stand motionless, your eyes fixed ahead, muscles tight, your face an impassive mask carved by will alone. When the procession finally resumes, moving towards the riverbank where offerings will be made and sacred fires lit, a profound calm settles over you. The city seems to hold its breath alongside you, the vibrant colors of banners and garments muted under the solemnity of the occasion. You realize that this procession is more than a ritual. It is a powerful lesson in restraint, devotion, and the understanding that sometimes the greatest strength lies in controlling even the most natural of human expressions. By not smiling, you honor the ancestors, uphold the laws of the gods, and step further along your path as a guardian of the temple's sacred traditions. As the sun dips low and the procession dissolves into the quiet of evening, you feel a mixture of exhaustion and pride. The muscles of your face finally relax, and in the privacy of your chambers, you allow a soft breath to escape, a release of the tension that held you so rigidly throughout the day. But even in rest, the memory of the silent march lingers, a reminder that the sacred demands of duty often require sacrifices of the heart, small yet profound, that shape your journey and deepen your connection to a world where every gesture holds meaning beyond the visible. You awaken to an uneasy silence, the kind that seeps through the walls of your chamber and settles like a heavy fog over the city. The usual chorus of morning birds and distant chatter is absent, replaced by a strange stillness that prickles your skin and twists your stomach into tight knots. Curious and cautious, you rise from your simple reed mat and move toward the small window carved into the thick stone wall, its edges softened by centuries of wind and dust. Outside, the first light of dawn spills over the horizon, but instead of the familiar shimmering blue of the Nile, your eyes widen in shock. The river flows a deep, unsettling crimson, like liquid blood spilling across the sands. News travels quickly despite the morning's hush, carried by hurried footsteps and whispered voices. You join the growing crowd that gathers near the riverbank, their faces pale with fear and confusion. The elders murmur old legends of curses and divine wrath, while priests rush about in frantic preparations, seeking to understand the unnatural phenomenon. You watch as the water laps against the shore, thick and red, swirling with fragments of reeds and fish floating lifelessly on the surface. The sun's reflection is swallowed by the ominous hue, turning what should be a source of life and sustenance into a scene of dread and foreboding. The high priest soon appears, clad in robes of white linen and gold, his expression grave and unreadable. He raises his arms and calls for silence, his voice cutting through the growing panic like a blade. He speaks of the river as the lifeblood of the land, a sacred artery that connects the people to the gods, and warns that the red waters are a sign, an urgent message from the divine realms. The priests gather sacred oils and incense, forming a protective circle around the river's edge, their chants rising in a desperate plea for mercy and understanding. The air becomes thick with the scent of myrrh and frankincense, and you feel a strange trembling, as if the earth itself is holding its breath. As the day unfolds, strange occurrences ripple through the city. Animals grow restless, their eyes wide with fear. Crops near the river begin to wither, and the people's anxiety swells into a tangible weight that presses upon your chest. You recall stories told in hushed tones, ancient warnings of times when the balance between the mortal and divine tipped dangerously. The Nile, once a symbol of life and renewal, now seems a harbinger of something darker, something that threatens the fragile peace your world has known for generations. You stand by the riverbank, the cold stone beneath your hands grounding you as you watch the crimson waters flow endlessly, a silent river of warning and grief. As night falls, torches flicker along the river's edge, their flames dancing against the eerie red reflection. The community gathers in the temple's great hall, where the high priest leads prayers through the long hours, his voice steady but heavy with sorrow. You find yourself caught between hope and despair, wondering what fate awaits the land and its people. The river's unnatural color is a reminder that even the gods are not beyond mystery and wrath, that the world you thought you knew holds secrets darker than the deepest shadows. In this moment, you feel the weight of your role, as a witness, a servant of the temple, and a soul bound to a story far greater than yourself. The temple's inner sanctum is cloaked in a profound silence, the kind that feels almost sacred, an ancient hush that wraps itself around you like a heavy cloak. Every step you take echoes faintly against the cold stone walls, worn smooth by countless years of prayers and whispered secrets. Flickering torchlight dances across the hieroglyphs carved into the columns, illuminating stories of gods and kings long gone, their faces frozen in eternal reverence and mystery. At the center of this hallowed space rests a wooden chest, its surface etched with symbols so intricate that it seems to pulse with an otherworldly life, as if the secrets it guards breathe beneath the varnished wood. You hesitate before it, your heart pounding in your chest, your breath shallow with anticipation. This chest holds a tablet, an artifact said to be forbidden to all but the highest priests, a relic whose knowledge could unravel the very fabric of your world. The weight of generations who guarded this secret presses down on you. The bronze clasp, darkened by time and touched by countless hands, is cold and heavy as you lift it, the sound of the lock clicking open a sharp contrast to the stillness that surrounds you. As the lid creaks open, a faint scent of old papyrus, dried ink, and something undefinable, perhaps fear or power, wafts upward, wrapping around you like a thick fog. Within the chest lies the tablet itself, smooth and heavy, its surface inscribed with ancient glyphs that seem to shift when viewed from the corner of your eye. These symbols are not merely writing but living echoes of a past where gods and men walked side by side, where promises were made in blood and broken with calamity. The tablet tells of divine wrath, of a curse that once threatened to engulf the land in eternal darkness, and of sacrifices demanded to keep chaos at bay. Your fingers tremble slightly as you trace the delicate carvings, aware that these are not just stories but warnings your ancestors heeded with reverence and fear. The weight of forbidden knowledge settles on your shoulders like a physical burden. You recall whispered tales told by the elders in the quiet hours of night, stories of a time when a foolish ruler sought to defy the gods, unleashing a plague that turned the Nile's waters red and the skies dark with ash. The tablet, it is said, holds the ritual to contain such wrath, but also the knowledge that if misused, could bring ruin beyond imagining. Your mind races with questions, doubts, and the thrill of danger. What if this knowledge could save your people from the strange omens you have witnessed? Or what if it is a trap, a snare for those who dare to seek power beyond their station? As you sit alone with the tablet, the temple seems to breathe around you. The flickering torches cast long, trembling shadows, and distant chanting rises and falls like waves crashing against the shore. You feel a strange connection to the many who came before you, priests and scribes who bore this secret with solemn duty, whose lives were dedicated to keeping balance between the mortal and divine realms. The tablet's curse is as much a test of character as it is a threat of destruction. To read it is to embrace responsibility, to become a guardian of a fragile peace that could shatter with a single misstep. After what feels like hours, you close the chest with deliberate care, sealing away the forbidden tablet once more. Yet its presence lingers in your thoughts, a persistent shadow that refuses to fade. The knowledge you have glimpsed stirs something deep inside you, a fierce desire to protect, to understand, and perhaps to wield the power hidden within those ancient carvings. As you leave the sanctum, the cold night air fills your lungs, grounding you as the stars shine cold and distant overhead. You walk back through the temple's corridors, each step heavy with the realization that the tablet you must never read has already begun to change you, marking the beginning of a path filled with uncertainty, danger, and the unyielding call of destiny. The air in the grand hall of the palace is thick with incense and anticipation, the heavy scent of myrrh blending with the faint musk of ancient stone and polished wood. Tall pillars rise like silent sentinels, their surfaces engraved with scenes of conquest, divine judgment, and the eternal glory of the kings who came before. At the far end of this vast chamber sits the throne, a towering, ornate seat carved from ebony and gold, encrusted with lapis lazuli and precious stones that glimmer faintly even in the subdued light. This is where the old Pharaoh awaits, a figure whispered about in both awe and fear throughout the city. You approach slowly, each step measured and careful, your heart pounding in your chest as the weight of countless eyes seems to fall upon you. Servants and courtiers line the marble floor, their faces a mixture of curiosity, respect, and something darker, perhaps skepticism or envy. Your hands are clenched lightly at your sides, your thoughts swirling with questions and doubts. What is the man behind the legend like? Is he the unyielding ruler painted in the stories, or something more human, vulnerable beneath the golden mask of power? As you draw nearer, the old Pharaoh's form becomes clearer. He is seated with a posture both regal and weary, his skin deeply lined like the bark of an ancient tree, eyes sharp despite the years, gleaming with a mixture of wisdom and an unsettling quiet intensity. His crown, heavy and adorned with the sacred Urias serpent, sits firmly upon his head, a symbol of his divine right and the heavy burden he carries. When his gaze meets yours, there is no need for words. His presence alone commands 1,000 unspoken commands and ancient memories. The chamber falls silent as he rises slowly from his throne, the creak of his bones echoing faintly in the vast room. His voice, when it comes, is low and steady, resonating with the authority of decades but tinged with a fatigue that few have seen. "You have come far, young one," he says, each word deliberate. "But the path you walk is not without peril. The knowledge you bear is heavy, and the balance of this kingdom depends on those who serve it with both courage and wisdom." You bow deeply, the weight of his gaze settling on you like a tangible force. In that moment, the stories you heard as a child, the victories, betrayals, and mysteries surrounding this ancient ruler, seem to dissolve, replaced by the undeniable truth of a man shaped by time and power. The Pharaoh is no mere legend but a living testament to the fragile line between God and mortal, king and servant, light and shadow. As the conversation unfolds, he shares tales of his long reign, victories over foreign invaders, the building of towering monuments that scrape the heavens, and the sacrifices demanded by the gods. Yet beneath the grandeur, there is a palpable sense of loneliness and weariness, a ruler burdened by the unrelenting passage of years and the weight of eternal responsibility. You sense a flicker of vulnerability, glimpsed in the way his fingers tighten briefly around the staff he carries, or the moment his gaze drifts toward the distant horizon visible through the palace windows. You realize then that meeting the old Pharaoh is not just an encounter with a ruler but a confrontation with history itself, a living bridge between the past and the uncertain future. In this solemn meeting, you are reminded of your place in the endless flow of time, the fragility of power, and the enduring spirit that binds all who have walked this land before you. When the audience ends, and you take your leave, the echo of the Pharaoh's words lingers, heavy, profound, and yet strangely comforting. The path ahead is shrouded in uncertainty, but you carry with you a new strength, the understanding that history is not merely told in stone or ink but lived in moments like this, where fate and choice intertwine beneath the ever-watchful eyes of the gods. The day dawns pale and muted, the sun rising slowly over the vast horizon, casting long shadows that stretch like fingers across the sprawling city below. The palace buzzes with nervous energy, servants scurrying to prepare the grand hall, priests whispering sacred chants, and musicians tuning instruments that will play the hymns of eternity. Today, you will be crowned, a moment every young noble dreams of, a rite that promises glory, power, and a place among the gods. Yet beneath the glittering surface, a cold weight settles deep in your chest, an unspoken truth you dare not acknowledge. This crown might mark the beginning of your fading into oblivion. The ceremony begins with solemn grandeur. Priests in flowing robes chant invocations to the gods, their voices weaving through the heavy air like ancient spells. The crowd gathers, noble families and foreign dignitaries alike, their eyes fixed on the throne where you will soon sit, draped in fine linens and gold, the symbol of divine authority resting heavy upon your brow. As the high priest places the golden crown upon your head, a shiver runs down your spine, a mixture of awe, fear, and the overwhelming realization that this symbol of ultimate power is also a yoke heavier than any iron chain. At first, the city celebrates. Music fills the streets, and incense curls upward into the bright sky, mingling with the laughter and cheers of those who see only the surface of your rise. But as the days turn to weeks, the adoration wanes. The courtiers begin to whisper behind your back, their smiles thin and sharp, their eyes calculating. You are no longer the bright hope but a figure to be watched, a pawn in games far older and more ruthless than you imagined. The very people who once praised you now speak your name with indifference or disdain, as if you are already a ghost wandering the marble halls of a palace that will soon forget you. Isolation creeps in like a slow poison, wrapping itself around your days and nights. Trusted advisors become distant, their loyalty as fleeting as the desert wind. The sacred duties that once filled your hours now feel like chains, rituals performed out of obligation rather than devotion. Your voice, once clear and commanding, grows faint beneath the weight of expectations and unseen intrigues. The grand halls, once alive with music and ceremony, echo hollowly with the silence of forgotten promises. Even your closest allies seem to drift away, swallowed by the swirling tides of court politics and ambition. You realize that to be crowned is not to be immortalized but often to become invisible, a specter bearing the title of Pharaoh, while the true power slips quietly into the hands of others. The gods themselves seem distant, their favor elusive as you navigate a world where trust is scarce and betrayal lurks in every shadow. Yet, in the stillness of your solitude, a quiet strength begins to grow. You learn to move unseen, to listen more than you speak, and to find purpose beyond the fleeting adulation of the crowd. The crown you wear may be heavy and forgotten by those around you, but it binds you to a destiny only you can fulfill. Though history might erase your name from the grand narratives, the choices you make in this silence will ripple through time in ways unseen but profoundly felt. As night falls over the palace, stars glimmer coldly above, indifferent witnesses to your struggle. You sit alone upon your throne, the golden circlet cold against your skin, a symbol not just of power but of the quiet, enduring resilience required to survive when all others turn away. In that solitude, you find a strange comfort, a whispered promise that even forgotten kings shape the future in ways the world may never know. The palace is quiet now, the once vibrant halls faded to shadows and whispers. Time, relentless and indifferent, has claimed its due. The voices that once filled the chambers, the footsteps that echoed along the stone corridors, have all but vanished, replaced by silence thick enough to swallow whole the memories of a reign both grand and forgotten. Dust settles slowly over the carved reliefs that told your story, the golden throne now dulled and cracked, a fragile monument to power's fleeting nature. You lie alone in the chamber where kings once dreamed of eternity, the air cool and heavy around you. The flicker of torchlight dances weakly on the walls, casting long, wavering shadows that mimic the ghosts of your past, faces of loved ones, trusted advisors, enemies, and strangers who once shaped the course of your life. The memories flood back with bittersweet clarity, the pride of your crowning, the whispered betrayals, the fleeting moments of joy, and the crushing weight of being both revered and forgotten. Outside, the world moves on as it always does, the river Nile continuing its eternal journey, carrying away the remnants of your story like silt in its waters. Children play where once royal decrees echoed, farmers tend fields where golden banners once waved proudly, and the desert winds sweep across the land that knew your name only for a brief, shining moment. You are a whisper now, a faint trace on the tapestry of history, slowly erased by time's unyielding hand. Yet, in this final stillness, there is a profound peace. You understand that legacy is not measured solely by monuments or songs sung by distant generations. It is found in the quiet moments, the choices made in shadows, the lives touched without witness, the courage to endure when all else fades. Your story, though buried beneath layers of dust and forgotten tales, is etched forever in the very earth beneath you, in the blood and sweat of those who lived and loved under your rule. As the last breath slips from your lips, a single grain of sand falls from your hand, joining countless others that have shaped this land through the ages. The dust does not erase you. It binds you to the endless cycle of life and death, memory and oblivion. You become part of the eternal rhythm, the silent witness to the rise and fall of empires, the quiet heart of a story still unfolding long after the final page has been turned. And as the stars wheel overhead in their endless dance, the world remembers in its own way, holding you gently within its vast, timeless embrace. You may be forgotten by many, but in this moment, between the fading light and the coming night, you are at last free.